Platforms cut across all aspects of human life, from information and entertainment to transportation, shopping, cleaning services, temporary rental housing, education, animal care, and delivery. However, what is a platform? How can we define it? A platform is a digital infrastructure that not only orchestrates interactions by algorithmically processing, monetizing, and circulating data, but also acts as an intermediary, connecting diverse user groups. Yet, a platform is not just a structure, it is also a process. Platformization.
The notion of platformization is really to think about the ways in which platforms and platform companies become involved in a wide variety of spheres of life and sectors of the economy. So what we want to understand is how platforms become central, for example, to news production or education or transport or healthcare and so on. So some of these core aspects of public life. And what we want to understand is what kinds of logics, what kinds of economic processes, what kinds of relations platforms introduce in those sectors. So that's the notion of platformization.
Although platforms are machines for generating, processing, and marketing data, they cannot be reduced to just that one dimension. Is it possible to go beyond denouncing digital labor and algorithmic business? How can we delve into the different dimensions of how platforms and their workers function? To address these and other pressing questions, a dynamic field of research has emerged: platform studies.
The main motivation is that the notion of platform became very central in the way both companies as well as scholars started to talk about changes in the media economy more generally. So the notion of platform became sort of the central concept in those discussions. The only problem was that the concept itself had also been occupied partly by corporate interests. So this is something, for example, Tartu Gillespie already wrote about in 2010. So the politics of platforms. And so what we wanted to do is try to redefine this notion of platform, or define it actually more precisely, to use it for critical research. So to open it up to critical inquiry by showing how that concept or the practices that actually are hiding behind that concept constitute particular market relations, particular infrastructural relations, and governance relations.
For my first book, I was interviewing workers who were not working through platforms because they weren't really around yet. That's how old I am. The rise of platforms really happened during my research for that book. And so I knew for the second project that I wanted to focus more on platform workers. But the care platforms became an interest because I realized that women were not really a part of the initial conversation, women workers. And so I wanted to look around in the economy to say, where could I be sure to find women who are working in these platform-mediated environments?
A little bit backstory about the research. At that time, I was actually doing a PhD seminar on cultural production and social media. And at that time, I was also figuring out what I wanted to do for my dissertation. So I planned to study like Uber drivers, gig workers in general, but also thinking like how that class could also help me to think about all these issues. So I start basically like looking at YouTube and also other many different social media groups, and I realized that a lot of Uber drivers, gig workers were talking about issues about their daily work on YouTube, social media, and some of them positioned themselves as expert in driving for Uber or navigating the platform in general. So I was just thinking like at that time, so how, given that like usually when we talk about expertise, it's usually associated with people with formal education or a certain like reputational signal, how could people like without the reputational signal could position themselves as expert, especially considering that at that time a lot of people talking about platform as a black box, and they seem to know what is going on inside. So that's sort of like the backstory why I started to look into the phenomenon, try to figure out how people come together on social media, even though they seem to be disconnected from one another, but also at the same time coming to know the black box of algorithmic systems.
I started to think about this issue during the transmedia literacy project, in which we analyzed several informal learning strategies, and in that context I started to individuate another type of actors, not only channels, media, but also human actors that played a role in this informal learning landscape, that were the influencers. So in the 2021 I carried out a research with 300 young people in Italy, asking them if there were influencers for them and the motivation, the reasons of such influence in their life. And surprisingly, they told me about this accidental and informal learning role of such influencers. So they liked and loved not only the entertainment, the emotional role of such actors, but also the possibility to learn something in a really easy way and also emotional way, really near to their daily life. And so from such research I went on with other development and other research about this.
The field of platform studies has significantly expanded, with researchers exploring cultural production on platforms like YouTube and TikTok, as well as service-oriented platforms for food distribution, care, cleaning, and room rentals. These studies examine both the platforms and worker experiences, employing diverse methodologies and theoretical approaches to understand the intricate dynamics involved.
I have been combining in-depth interviews with care workers across the United States with long-term sort of longitudinal analysis of the companies and also all of their sort of cultural products. So looking at the ways that their CEOs speak in the news, looking at the different ways that they try to influence the news media with different statistics and things like that, and also the lawsuits that they're involved in. And more recently, I've been combining the worker interviews with parents, so I'm able to get at both sides of the market.
I basically rely on qualitative methods to study the phenomenon. I did interviews with people who post videos on YouTube and also on some other different sites. So I only look at people who regularly post videos there as a way to better understand why they produce content. And I also look at like the textual materials. So I was actually thinking about like when people position themselves as expert, they would usually rely on what some of the scholars call reputational signals to do that. So one of the places that we could look at is actually the YouTube About section. So how they describe themselves. So part of the data come from like identifying those regular active content creators and looking at their YouTube channel self-description. Also looking at some of their most viewed videos to kind of get a better sense of like what content they produced, and also the courses that they are selling to the drivers to see how they try to commodify the content about the algorithmic system as well.
About the influence, I started with such quantitative analysis based in reality to self-ethnographic reports by students. They had to describe me a week of their media life and the influencers they encountered and when and why they considered them interesting and insightful for them, and also to catch images, examples examples of such importance. So I managed to collect quite 500 influencers that were mentioned by such young people, young students, and I categorized them, and in categorizing such influence assets, I detected the educational one as one of the more important and insightful for them. And so it started by an analysis of the audiences, no? And their perception, and also which were the values related to the influence. So, for example, the emotional values, the learning values, and not only the knowledge as a first asset.
How did the PLATCOM project approach the analysis of platform work? By adopting a holistic strategy that included discourse analysis and ethnography, the project delved into platforms as interfaces, that is, networks of actors, relationships, and processes which show the intricate dynamics of the platform work environment. This perspective shed light on the transition from the 1990s myth of digital disintermediation to today's reality of cyber intermediation, emphasizing the complex interactions and transactions enabled by contemporary digital platforms.
Hi, my name is Carlos Escolari. I'm professor and researcher at the Pompeu Fabra University in the Department of Communication, and I am the principal investigator of the PLATCOM project. With a group of 15 people, we have been working for almost 4 years in Barcelona and Madrid. The objective of the PLATCOM project was to analyze the people working for platforms, not only riders. We are also thinking about the people working in care, transport, delivery also. So for 4 years, we analyzed this world. We were especially interested in the informal learning processes inside platforms, how people arrive to this specific area of working, and the conflicts that they are inside the platform working environment. We apply the concept of interface, not the traditional user interface, but we consider the whole thing and the whole network of actors as a big interface. So we work specifically in the conflicts and tensions inside the platform working interface. And finally, we also analyze the discourse of the workers of the platform. So we developed different objectives in 4 years, and we also concluded this project with a huge international conference in Barcelona.
Hello everyone, my name is Mar Guerrero. I'm a tenure track lecturer at the Department of Communication at Universitat Pompeu Fabra, and I'm a member of the Medium Research Group. I'm also the methodological coordinator of the platform project. So I'm going to discuss a bit about the research we've done along these past 4 years. And basically we followed an ethnographic approach combining a different set of methods, such as semi-structured interviews, non-participant observation, and also documentation analysis. The research started in 2020, in the middle of the global pandemic, and before the enactment of the Riders' Law. So it involved a number of 48 participants, some of which were interviewed more than once, amounted to a total of 73 interviews. A wide range of experiences and perspectives were collected because many of these participants come from different countries. We're talking about 15 different countries and different age groups.
What does the future hold for platform studies? As we look forward to what lies ahead, we encounter new challenges that need creative and comprehensive strategies to navigate the evolving landscape of platform research.
What I'm really curious about right now is, especially given the really wonderful flourishing of research on care platforms that I've seen over the past few years, it's a small but very mighty group of researchers. I'm really interested now in taking a few big steps backwards in history and to say, how can we make sense of the current situation of care platforms and of women working through platforms in general by putting them into a different historical context? And so I'm going to be talking about that in my talk tomorrow.
I think one of the directions that more and more researchers are going for right now is to think of like platform work not simply bounded within the labor platform they work on, because like we are seeing for different kinds of platform, not just ride-hailing, delivery, but also like care work. Some of the presenters in this conference also mentioned people would go to different sites to look for information.
So what we observed when we started to do this work already earlier on with the development of the book on the Platform Society, which I wrote with José van Dijk and Martijn de Waal, and then later with David Nieborg and Brooke Aaron Duffy on platforms and culture production, is that there is a lot of great research that's done in this field. So and indeed in the fields you mentioned, so there's great analysis of economic processes in business studies, there's critical work done in political economy, there's very thorough, also empirically detailed work being done in software platform studies that sort of traces and provides insight into these computational or data infrastructures. Yet what is really missing from our perspective is the connection between these fields.
As we wrap up our journey through platform work, it's evident that this sector is in a state of flux. Platforms not only redefine market dynamics, but also significantly impact workers' lives globally. The insights from various studies prompt us to critically examine the future of work and its supporting digital framework. It's crucial that we remain proactive in understanding and shaping the impact of platforms, ensuring they foster fairness and benefit everyone involved.